What's the oldest business still running to this day? Which one was the first to sprout an industry? Which one made it through thick and thin and is still family owned? One day, while overwhelmed with consumerism bliss, I asked myself these questions. The answer, be it very simple, sent me down a chasm of a rabbit hole. Out with the new and flashy. I want some tradition, some heritage and history. I want to know who was the first and is still around. There are so many old companies, ancient ones, dating back literal centuries that are still going strong to this day. It's bound to get you optimistic. We all need a little bit of optimism right now, don't we? Well, pull up a chair, cause I'm gonna tell you all about them. There's something deeply comforting about the idea that somewhere in the world a person is still making a product the exact same way their great-great-great-great-grandfather did, possibly while wearing the same expression of mild concern about rising ingredient costs. Maybe even wearing the same clothes. And somehow some of those companies are still around. It feels like there should be at least one dramatic interruption, like a war or a fire or just a particularly bad nephew, but no. In some cases it's still the same family, still making the same product. I call this one my anti-marketing video. Instead of buying some stupid low-quality crap that's been peddled and hyped everywhere, get something cool, something genuine, or at least something with true heritage and history behind it. Whether it's a glass you've been drinking from, or the beer itself, or a musical instrument you've been playing, it might just have an incredible story behind it. Generations of talent and craftsmanship. So next time you pick it up, you can't help but feel inspired and hopefully appreciate it more. There's actual history behind some of those unassuming and very assuming items. And it might just add some perspective to them that you might not have been aware of. Who knows, maybe you'll become a conversation starter. Or maybe you'll just smile in appreciation whenever you glance at it. Or maybe you'll just start treating it right, the way it always deserved. I have zero affiliation with any of these companies, so in no way is this video an ad. Although I do think that some of them make really good products. At the very least, they aren't lying to you like Fume or trying to ruin your health like gamer subs or selling you garbage like Raycons or providing you with fake shrinks and selling your medical data like BetterHelp. My cutoff was that the company must be at least 100 years old. Cause that's old. Old enough to make the list. It's gonna be youngest to oldest, so buckle up, we're going back in time. Over 1,000 years. But let's start in the 19th century Germany. The Benz Patent Motorwagen is the first modern gasoline car designed from scratch as an automobile, which is why historians usually treat it as the first car. In 1888, Bertha Benz secretly drove the car 106 kilometers round trip, proving the invention was practical and helping make it famous. Thankfully, Bertha was not great at keeping secret, because Mercedes-Benz, the main brand of Daimler-Benz, is what's going strong to this very day. The name stems from Mercedes Jelinek, the daughter of a key DMG dealer and entrepreneur Emil Jelinek. Emil registered the name in 1902 for marketing purposes, and thus a child became a brand. Just like a politician kissing a child, only more sincere. The iconic three-pointed star represents the company's ambition, motoring on land, water, and in the air. Based in Stuttgart, Germany, the company is now 140 years old. Daimler-Benz was formed with the merger of Benz and CAE and Daimler Motorengesellschaft in 1926. Mercedes-Benz is famous for so many things, like first diesel passenger car, 1936 Mercedes-Benz 260D. The first production car with direct fuel injection, the 1951 Type 300S. The iconic 300SL Gullwing, the first crumple zone in 1959, and being the first adopters of ABS, traction control, and numerous other technologies they optioned to your car, doubling it in price. They also had a brief affair with Chrysler that ended in 2007. And in February 2022, Daimler was finally renamed into Mercedes-Benz Group. They're responsible for making luxurious automobiles, some of which are absolutely legendary and can be considered automotive art. Then there's also racing legacy that is paved in gold, and a few unfortunate disasters. Somehow Mercedes managed to be great at both racing and accidents. So, the first? Yes. The oldest? Check. Still family owned? No. Some of the largest stakeholders are the Chinese investment groups, Kuwait's sovereign investment fund, and companies like BlackRock. They're also selling these weird and kinda awful electric cars these days and are now outsourcing engine production to China. But that's the price of staying in business these days. Or so they say. Before I go off on a tangent about the deindustrialization of Germany, let's go to America. In 1836, Samuel Colt patented his improved revolver design and started his business a year later. Somehow the early sales were poor and the first company went bankrupt. To think that a thing that killed fellow men better was a flop. Then, 20 years later, Samuel founded his Colt's patented firearms manufacturing company and revolutionized the firearms industry. Revolvers were far superior to the single-shot and multi-barreled pistols, thus phasing them out. In 1873, the iconic Colt Single-Action Army, one of the most legendary firearms of the American West, was born, making Colt's name immortal. The gun that won the West. Cowboys, soldiers, and law enforcement alike carried Colt pistols, among other people. Can't blame a guy for making a good gun, eh? During the American Civil War, the factory ran 24/7, using assembly line techniques decades before Henry Ford. Colt benefited from the work of John Moses Browning and Eugene Stoner, producing the M1911 service pistol and versions of the M16 rifle and M4 carbine. After years of financial troubles and restructuring, the company was acquired in 2021 by Česká zbrojovka Group from Czech Republic, and is run by them to this day. The name of Colt lives on. The famous horse logo adorns the pricey but beautiful revolvers to this day. First, yes. The oldest, as a revolver manufacturer, yes. Still family owned? No. But our next American company is still very much influenced by its founding family. Founded in 1853 in San Francisco by Levi Strauss, Levi Strauss Company was a clothing company. 11 years later, Strauss and Jacob Davis patented riveted denim work pants, the direct ancestors of modern jeans. Not these jeans. These pants were originally designed for miners and laborers during the California Gold Rush. That riveted reinforcement patent is widely considered the birth of modern jeans. Facing fierce competition, Levi's remains one of the most popular brands of jeans. Personally, I would argue that they are the #1 jeans company in the world. Levi's was even considered an essential commodity during World War II. From a billionaire to a homeless person, from an undergraduate to the Nobel Prize winner, you, me, and almost everyone on this planet of ours, we all have at least one piece of clothing that unites us. And it is not stained underwear. It's the blue jeans. So when you wear Levi's, just remember that you're wearing the first jeans ever that are almost 200 years old. First? Yes. Oldest in business? Yes. Still family owned? Kinda. If you want truly American denim that is 100% family owned, go with Dearborn jeans. But remember, they weren't the first, and they're only 10 years old. Pelikan was founded in 1838 in Hanover, Germany by Karl Hornemann as a manufacturer of inks and paints for artists and writing. Then, in 1870, the Pelikan logo and the brand name were introduced by chemist Gunther Wagner, who acquired the company and expanded its ink production internationally. Almost 60 years later, Pelikan launched its first fountain pen using a piston filling mechanism, which became one of the most reliable pen systems and remains a defining Pelikan feature. Over the coming years, they expanded into school supplies, art materials and office products, becoming a major European stationery manufacturer. And as it turns out, they also work great as a blowgun for wet pieces of paper. Pelikan remains well known primarily for high-quality fountain pens and inks, especially the classic Sovereign series, and continues to produce writing instruments and stationery products worldwide. So whenever you come across their products, just remember that they were at the source of the fountain that is modern handwriting. First? Yes. Oldest in business? Yes. Still family owned? Unfortunately not. Pelikan is part of a corporate group with majority ownership by a single investor, not a founding family. Gives better chance of surviving the stormy seas of economy these days. Mere year before Pelikan, a certain gentleman called John Deere of Illinois created the first successful self-scoring steel plow, designed to cut through tough prairie soil of the American Midwest. This success set the first stone in the founding of a growing business that 31 years later was formally incorporated as Deere Company, expanding productions of plows and farming tools. In the early 20th century, the company expanded into tractors, harvesters, and other mechanized farming equipment, marking a major step toward modern farm mechanization and becoming one of the dominant agricultural equipment manufacturers in the United States in the process. Later in the century, Deere became a global leader in agricultural machinery, construction equipment and forestry machines, known worldwide for its green and yellow tractors and precision agriculture technology. But it didn't avoid a major pile of manure and just plowed headfirst into it, that being the right to repair controversy, which Deere is a huge part of. Companies like John Deere sell tractors and combines with software-locked controls, so farmers cannot repair machines without authorized dealers. This increases repair costs and downtime. As reasons to restrict access, John Deere and others cite safety and emissions compliance. So you'll understand why I don't really wish Deere Company to keep going strong. I'd wager that John Deere himself would be ashamed of what happened to his legacy. John Deere is kind of an odd duck for this list because they're not family owned, they're not the oldest and they weren't the first. But with over 200 years behind them, I thought they still deserved a place. Just 2 years shy of 200 years ago, Eley was founded in London by brothers William and Charles Eley to produce gunpowder for firearms. It quickly became known for high-quality powders and cartridges for hunting and shooting. The company later expanded into rimfire cartridges as firearms technology advanced, and they did such a good job that Eley became a major supplier to sports shooters, hunters, and competitive marksmen in Britain and Europe. Staying true to their roots, Eley specialized in precision small-bore ammunition, particularly for target shooting and Olympic disciplines, thus gaining international recognition for accuracy and reliability. Today, Eley produces high-end rimfire cartridges, especially for competitive shooting, maintaining its heritage of precision ammunition, and is considered the oldest continuously operating ammunition company in the world. Every shooter I know swears by their quality and reliability. Their commitment to producing rimfire ammo almost exclusively, branching out into full bore with just a few products, speaks of dedication and success. Its ammo has been used to win over 90% of Olympic small-bore shooting medals in recent decades. In short, Eley's Olympic famous, royally endorsed, and a pioneer in modern rimfire ammunition. There, choke on that, Lapua. But they do make amazing ammo. I love Lapua, and that 90% is just marketing numbers that cannot be reliably confirmed. So Eley weren't the first to produce rimfire ammo, they were just around for longer. And they're no longer family owned. Still, a great company. Ah, chocolate. no one would dare to argue that one nation is best known for making it. Founded in 1819 by François-Louis Cailler, Cailler is widely considered the oldest continuously operating chocolate brand in the world, and one of the pioneers of modern chocolate as we know it. J.S. Fry & Sons produced the first solid edible chocolate bar by mixing cocoa butter, sugar and cocoa powder into a moldable paste. But unfortunately, they're no longer around. In the mid-1800s, Cailler opened Switzerland's first mechanized chocolate factory. At the time, chocolate was still mostly consumed as a drink. Amazingly, Cailler helped push it towards solid, affordable chocolate, making it more accessible. Switzerland's reputation for chocolate formed during this period. Cailler later became associated with milk chocolate development alongside figures like Daniel Peter and Henri Nestlé. The use of condensed milk and Nestlé innovation helped create smoother, sweeter chocolate. Honestly, I kinda hate milk chocolate, and I have nothing but contempt towards Nestlé as a company and what they stand for. Buying off cool brands and purging their soul, paying off actual doctors to claim that Nestlé's formulas are superior to breast milk, which is dangerously untrue by the way, and they're also famous for advocating for poor countries to pay for their own water supply. So, Cailler merged with other Swiss chocolate makers, eventually becoming part of Nestlé in 1929. And that's why I won't buy any of their products. But the brand is still alive. The building in Brock is still going, operating as both a museum and a factory. Cool stuff. Too bad it's a part of an evil empire now. But let's not end our Swiss trip on this sour note. Instead of eating unhealthy, let's get ourselves a luxury watch. Who doesn't like a nice watch? It's one of the most popular ways to subtly humble brag about your wealth. Which is neither humble nor is it subtle, but it sure is popular. Blancpain was the first registered watchmaking company in the world, located in Bernese Jura of Switzerland. The famous Jurassic period is named after those mountains, by the way. Even though most of the popular dinosaur species come from a different period, but I digress. Jean-Jacques Blancpain started his company at the top floor of his own home and built it into a Swiss watchmaker that exists to this day. And those weirdos know how to make a fine timepiece. It's not family owned since the early 20th century, but I'm sure Jean-Jacques would be very proud of his name adorning today's Blancpain watches. When you think of a wristwatch, you usually go Rolex, Omega, Patek Philippe maybe, but unless you're a connoisseur, it's not Blancpain. And I want to address that, because their watches are really good, except maybe their Swatch collection. Seems like the watch enthusiasts aren't blown away with that flavor of white bread. And as someone who hates plastic in general and tries to buy products made of wood and metal whenever possible, I'm on board this mild hate train. Either way, it shouldn't deter you in any way from buying one of Blancpain's timepieces for yourself or as a gift. The first, the oldest, not family owned, but then nothing is perfect. Twinings is really cool. It's one of those UK businesses that should make every Brit proud. But unlike, say, Bentley or Holland & Holland, where famous British ingenuity and craftsmanship coexisted, with Twinings, there's a really ugly elephant in the room. Dating back 320 years, Twinings was founded by Thomas Surprise Twining, and amazingly occupies the very same premises in London to this very day. The majority of its products are not produced in Britain for 18 years now, and thankfully some efforts were made to rid of unethical tea industry practices. That's just a polite way of saying slavery. Yeah. Thomas Twining had a brief financial link to the slave trade by investing for a brief period in the Royal African Company. But importantly, the tea trade itself was not based on plantation slavery in the same way as sugar or cotton. Today's concerns are mostly related to low wages and poor living conditions in tea estates supplying major brands, and human trafficking and forced labor risks in some plantations, especially in India's Assam region. So thankfully it was never a slave-based plantation company, and the fact that they're being scrutinized over supply chain ethics like most large food brands is a good thing in my book. They produce some quality tea though. Ever since I was a kid, my mom always went with Twinings. Their logo is embedded deep in my childhood memories, and nothing will tarnish those sweet, innocent days. I wish I never knew a lot of things, but them's the breaks, people. And Twinings will remain in my family kitchen hopefully for years to come. Not the first, the oldest, and family loved. Okay, enough of those exploitation concerns. Let's go back further in time and to a cold climate of Finland. Now, I love Finnish products. Their design has so much thought and subtle creativity behind it, I can't help but be a huge fan of theirs. The harsh environment they reside in fueled some rugged and clever products. Finnish clothing is one of the best choices for cold weather, and their firearms have been unbeatable in terms of price to performance for decades. That also applies to tools and metal goods. Founded 377 years ago as an ironworks in Fiskars village, when a famous merchant Peter Törveste received permission from the Swedish crown to produce iron products such as nails, wire and tools. Fiskars has become a household name by now. Since the 18th century, Fiskars expanded production to include agricultural tools, knives and household metal goods, becoming one of Finland's most important early industrial enterprises. And in the 20th, the company diversified into consumer tools and household products, gaining global recognition. In 1967, Fiskars introduced the famous orange-handled scissors, which became one of the most widely sold scissor designs in the world. I personally always prefer the underdog and would always go for some obscure brand just for the sake of novelty and a very likely chance of overlooked greatness. But you just can't go wrong with Fiskars. Hopefully this statement ages like fine milk. Oh, wine. 403 years ago. Let that sink in. In Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, an Armenian metalworker Avedis Zildjian I discovered a secret alloy formula for making strong musical cymbals. Sultan Osman II reportedly granted him the name Zildjian, which translates to son of the cymbal maker. Throughout the centuries, the Zildjian family produced cymbals for the Ottoman military bands and gradually gained a reputation across Europe. And then, in 1929, Avedis Zildjian III moved production to Massachusetts, establishing the modern American company and supplying cymbals to the growing jazz industry. That turned out to be the cleverest of moves, as in the last century Zildjian became one of the most influential cymbal manufacturers, used by countless rock, jazz and orchestral drummers. And on top of that, the company remains family-owned, making it one of the oldest continuously operating family businesses in the world. They produce professional cymbals and drumsticks used worldwide. Can you imagine being born into a business with such history behind it? The coolness factor is just off the charts. So is the pressure, don't mess it up now. So the first, unlikely. The oldest, most definitely. Still family owned? You betcha. Mellerio origins trace back to Lombard artisans who settled in France in the early 17th century. When it comes to jewelry houses, it's considered to be the oldest in the world. Right from the get-go, 413 years ago, the firm received royal privileges from Mary de' Medici in 1613, granting it trade permissions and protection, an absolutely extraordinary thing for a foreign jeweler. Through centuries, the house became an official jeweler to European courts, renowned for intricate designs that reflected evolving tastes from Ancien Regime to modern times. The company reached new prominence under Napoleon Bonaparte, and later Napoleon III, crafting elaborate jewelry for the imperial court, including pieces for Empress Eugenie. Despite revolutions, wars and economic upheavals, Mellerio remained family-owned for 14 generations, representing its artisanal traditions. Now if this isn't special, then I really don't know what is. I mean, remaining a functioning family for 14 generations. Obscure? Yes. Really cool? Very much so. Affordable? Surprisingly enough, kinda yes. Don't expect anything like, say, a Cartier wedding band though. It's more about being a classy, tasteful centerpiece. Gentlemen, I may have found that very special gift for that very special someone for you. You are welcome. Brass and metalware. Wait, hold on. Trust me, it's really cool. Skultuna was founded 419 years ago by King Charles IX of Sweden as a brass foundry to reduce imports and strengthen Sweden's economy, and is widely considered one of the oldest, and often the oldest, continuously operating brass manufacturers in the world. The location was chosen for its water power and proximity to copper resources. The company produced chandeliers, candlesticks, and brass plates using techniques brought by craftsmen from Germany and the Netherlands. Amazingly, some early designs are still made today, and their more current designs just ooze style and quality. And you thought boring. Aha! With industrialization, Skultuna moved from raw brass production toward decorative and household objects, collaborating with famous designers and creating award-winning pieces. Minimalism at its finest. The factory is actually a tourist magnet itself, attracting about 150,000 visitors annually. Skultuna still produces home and fashion accessories, with production continuing in the same location since 1607, an unbroken industrial tradition. It wasn't the first, but it's the oldest that is still running to this day, and was never family owned to begin with, but who cares? Skultuna represents over 400 years of just pure class and style. As far as actual surviving businesses go, few are cooler than Ed Meier. Established 430 years ago in Munich, Germany as a shoemaker's workshop serving local customers with handmade footwear, the company gained prestige by becoming a supplier to Bavarian nobility and the royal court, building a reputation for high-quality craftsmanship. Over the 19th century, Ed Meier evolved from a workshop to a retail business, offering both bespoke and ready-made footwear, while maintaining their traditional methods. Later, the company expanded its production range to include leather goods and accessories, while preserving its identity as a premium shoemaker. Still family-operated, Ed Meier continues to produce footwear in limited quantities, combining artisanal quality with modern sensibilities. None of what they offer is cheap, but it's impossible to miss the heritage and the refined, just distilled class. Look! It's such a callback to the olden days when people had taste and whimsy in a perfect blend. Place this document holder on your desk and your vis-a-vis gaze is guaranteed not to wander. The company remains a symbol of traditional excellence in bespoke shoemaking. You may find something more expensive, but for me personally with Ed Meier, it's way easier to justify the pricing. Being the first and the oldest in the industry while remaining a family for 430 years is pretty incredible. The French champagne.
The French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence.
Predating sparkling wine itself, starting as a still wine producer 442 years ago, Gosset is widely considered the oldest champagne house still in operation. Founded in Ailly, France by Pierre Gosset, it initially produced still red wines from the Champagne region, which were highly regarded at the time. As sparkling wine techniques developed in the region, Gosset gradually shifted to producing champagne, becoming part of the emerging new tradition. Gosset built a reputation for high-quality wines, supplying aristocracy and international markets as champagne gained global prestige. The house maintained a distinctive identity, often emphasizing freshness and structure, including a traditional approach of avoiding malolactic fermentation in many cuvées. If you want to be decadent, do it in style, please, and join the centuries-old tradition of getting elegantly wasted. Now here's a sour note. Their glorious family run has ended in 1994. Gosset operates as part of a larger wine group, Renault Cointreau, But on the bright side, the group itself is family owned. But let's not kid ourselves, that logic can be stretched paper thin. Palantir could also be called a family owned business. I mean, Peter Thiel has a family or something. Although some older metalworking traditions do exist in Japan, Aritsugu is very likely one of the oldest continuously operating knife makers in the world, with a strong claim to being the oldest, especially in the context of a still active branded workshop. Founded in 1560 in Kyoto by Fujiwara no Aritsugu, they originally made swords for the imperial court. What a beginning! With the decline in samurai swords, Aritsugu shifted focus to cutlery and knives, applying the same techniques used in forging swords to chef's knives. In doing that, the workshop expanded its retail presence, most famously in Kyoto's Nishiki market, selling homemade knives to chefs and consumers. It also began catering to professional culinary artisans, building a reputation for precision and craftsmanship. Today, Aritsugu remains a family-owned workshop that produces hand-forged knives, combining centuries-old techniques with modern kitchen needs. Its knives are highly prized by professional chefs in Japan and abroad, and their shop in Kyoto remains a cultural landmark. Being the first and the oldest while still being kept in the family is nothing short of amazing. Being 471 years old, Chiso is not the oldest clothing company in the world, because apparently there is a company named Izeki that's 5 years older, but I couldn't find anything on them online. Chiso was established in 1555 by a merchant Sanju Muramachi in Kyoto, specializing in clothing for nobles, monks, and aristocrats, producing luxury textiles for formal wear. For 2 centuries, Chiso became renowned for handcrafted dyeing, weaving, and embroidery techniques, including yuzen dyeing, which became a signature of Kyoto kimonos. The company focused on exquisite craftsmanship and custom pieces for high-status clients. Chiso survived the challenge of modernization brought on by the 20th century through combining traditional techniques with contemporary design, maintaining its position as a luxury kimono brand, while extending its reach to collectors and ceremonial markets. Chiso is still family-owned, producing handmade kimonos and luxury textiles. Its workshops continue to use traditional artisanal methods, making it a rare example of a 500-year-old textile company still in operation to this day. Absolutely gorgeous pieces and a joy to behold. A society that still wears clothes like that centuries later deserves nothing but respect. Hopefully, while remaining adorably weird, Japan manages to keep these traditions alive. Soap and soap-like materials predate Christ himself by thousands of years, but the Vergulde Hand, which translates to the Gilded Hand, is the oldest surviving branded soap company still in operation, which is not so common. Founded in Amsterdam, Netherlands as a soap-making workshop producing soap for domestic use and personal grooming, it is one of the oldest documented soap brands still in existence. In its early years, the workshop produced handmade soaps using traditional techniques, serving households and eventually merchants and travelers. Its high quality helped the brand survive the coming centuries. In the 18th and 19th century, the Vergulde Hand became well known across the Netherlands, particularly for its shaving and toilet soaps, which were considered premium products. As many other old businesses, the company became part of larger Dutch industrial groups, including Akzo, later Akzo Nobel, but retained its brand identity and continues producing shaving soap, creams, and related grooming products. So when you come across one of their products, rejoice in grooming yourself, and also witnessing almost 500 years of foamy legacy. This year is very special for a certain Italian brand that you might have heard of, because it marks their 500th birthday. I'm sure they're not going to make a big deal out of it. Yeah, that subtle logo redesign is pretty cool. But a Garmin watch for the price of a Seamaster? You gotta be kidding me.
You gotta be f***ing kidding.
Beretta was founded in Gardone Valtrompia, Italy. when Bartolomeo Beretta signed a contract to supply arquebus barrels to the Venetian Republic. This marks the start of the oldest continuously operating firearms manufacturers in the world, which, believe it or not, is still family operated for over 16 generations. In its maiden years, Beretta produced matchlock and wheel-lock firearms, gradually establishing a reputation for precision and quality in military and civilian weapons. The company later expanded its product range to flintlock and percussion firearms, supplying European armies and noble hunters. In the 20th century, Beretta introduced semi-automatic pistols, rifles, and shotguns. And shotguns are cool. Its Beretta 92 pistol became famous. It was adopted by the US military as the M9 and has been a staple in movies and video games. As of today, they produce civilian, sporting, and military firearms worldwide and own a plethora of other smaller firearms manufacturers all over Europe, such as Benelli, Franchi, Chapuis Arms, and Tikka and Sacco. The latter are very near and dear to me, as I consider Sacco one of the best gun makers out there, and I'm gonna be honest here and say that I'm not a huge fan of the changes Beretta has introduced. Hopefully they will find a way to keep their optimization ways away from my beloved Finnish rifles. It's also not common knowledge, but Beretta actually acquired Holland & Holland, one of the most famous bespoke gun makers in the world. And that jacked up the prices of all the guns that were made before the merger. They also own Steiner Optics and Barris Optics, neither of which I would recommend. But on the bright side, they also own Norma, and that company is still at the tip of the spear. So happy 500th, Beretta. Your ancestors must be proud. Established 551 years ago in eastern France during the reign of King Louis XI, La Rochère is the oldest continuously operating glasswork in Europe. They originally produced window glass and utilitarian wares for local use and operated through wars, economic shifts, and changes in glassmaking techniques. Later, La Rochère transitioned from traditional blown glass to pressed glass technique, allowing for mass production and expanding to tableware, reaching broader markets. They even managed to survive World War I and II. In the last century, La Rochère shifted towards durable, everyday glass while preserving traditional designs. La Rochère is a great blend of heritage, aesthetics, and industrial manufacturing. They are a rare example of a medieval craft evolving into modern industry. Plenty of companies claim medieval origins, but often through mergers, refoundations, brand revivals, but La Rochère is still the real deal. One of their most famous designs features bees, inspired by Napoleon Bonaparte's imperial symbol. These glasses are still produced today, meaning you can drink from a design tied to Imperial France. Unlike Murano glassmakers, La Rochère focused on durable, everyday glassware, not fragile art pieces. It's historical glass that you can actually use daily without fear. That's why they're popular in restaurants and everyday use, not just display shelves. Like a car that's meant to be driven, the glass is meant to be used. No royal mystique obsession, no extreme luxury positioning, just 500 years of consistent production and just good design. Gebrüder Weiss is widely considered the oldest continuously operating logistics company in the world. Their origins can be traced back to 1474 in the region of modern Austria called Vorarlberg. They started as a courier and transport service, moving goods across the Alps. Then later they started operating key trade routes between Italy, Germany, and Central Europe. Gebrüder Weiss kept evolving their trade, expanding with railways and structured freight networks, transitioning into modern logistics such as trucking and warehousing. Today, the company is a global logistics provider with air, sea, and land freight supply chains. Other transport-related firms with a long history exist, but many were refounded, merged, or interrupted. Few have such a clear lineage back to the 15th century, and yes, the company is primarily owned by the descendants of the founding Weiss family. It operates as a private company and is not publicly traded. Like many very old firms, ownership is spread across multiple family branches, combined with modern corporate governance structure. so it's not a single owner situation, but it retains genuine family control. Organizing and running a global logistics network for over 500 years and keeping it family owned does sound like a miracle. Banking is an ancient trade. Even a medieval knight could get a nice low-interest loan. 554-year-old Banca Monte dei Paschi di Siena was founded to cater to those with big ideas and in need of some spare change. Established as a Monte di Pietà, a charitable lending institution offering loans aimed to support poorer citizens, the company continuously operated since the 15th century and still functions as a bank today. And by that I mean clear institutional continuity and not just a revived name. I know, unbelievable. Now there's a name you can trust. And yet, despite its age, the bank has faced serious financial crises in the recent decades. And just like any other bank in peril, it required state support from Italian government, aka taxpayers, to retain its stability. But unlike some other financial institutions being CPR'd with people's money, this one is really worth the trouble because it's the oldest continuously operating bank in the world, and that historically unmatched longevity is something to be preserved and cherished. They're already state-owned at this point, so all that's required of them is to work out a secure investment policy. Banking is honestly kinda boring. Italians are way better known for producing actual things. And one of those things are boats. Boat building is a gentleman's occupation, and nobody knows that better than the team at Camuffo di Portogruaro. Predating both the unification of Italy and the discovery of the Americas, founded in Portogruaro, they built boats for the Republic of Venice, one of the greatest naval powers of the time. It has operated continuously for nearly 600 years. They're often cited as one of the oldest family-owned businesses in existence, even though they're not. But what they are is the oldest shipyard in the world that is still operating. Before transitioning to motorboats, Camuffo focused on wooden sailing vessels for trade and defense. The shipyard produces luxury high-end motor yachts today and is still run by the Camuffo family. Unlike many shipyards, Camuffo stayed relatively small and artisanal. Their boats are known for exceptional craftsmanship and finishing. This helped them survive, while larger, more industrial competitors collapsed or merged. They survived not by dominating, but by adapting. From sail to steam to motor, from wood to modern materials, from trade vessels to luxury yachts. Same business, different centuries, completely different clientele. Staying niche, maintaining quality, avoiding overexpansion is the recipe given that you have the skills and the soul. But back to France now. Papeterie Richard Debat is widely regarded as the oldest continuously operating paper mill in the world. Founded 700 freaking years ago, it specialized in handmade paper, particularly high-quality art and printing paper. Richard Debat survived wars, industrialization, and changes in papermaking technology. Today, it still produces traditional and archival papers for artists, museums, and conservation, as well as maps, family trees, bookmarks, and pieces of poetry printed using traditional methods on sheets of handmade paper. It's just so wholesome, it makes me wanna adopt 10 dogs. Or one. Maybe. Still family influenced and highly respected in fine art and archival paper circles, Richard Debat is a rare example of French business sticking to their roots through thick and thin for centuries. They have an online store, by the way. I'm not affiliated with them, I'm just happy to direct my viewers their way as a 700th day birthday present. Now, how about a beer? For almost as long as a millennia, Bayerische Staatsbrauerei Weihenstephan has been brewing at Weihenstephan Abbey in Freising, Bavaria. As is often the case, the craft monks brewed beer both for local consumption and to support the abbey's finances. The brewery followed the Reinheitsgebot, German beer purity law of 1516, ensuring beer was made only with barley, hops, and water. It's no surprise to anyone that Weihenstephan Abbey became a model of traditional Bavarian brewing standards. Yeast as a component was understood later. In 1803, following the secularization of monasteries, it transferred its facilities to the Bavarian government, thus becoming a state-run brewery. Affiliated with the Technical University of Munich, it also operates as a brewing research center. Now that's a job any red-blooded human would apply for. They actually developed scientific approaches to fermentation, yeast and quality control. Today it produces a wide range of Bavarian-style beers, from classic Hefeweizens to specialty lagers, and on top of that hosts a brewery school. Can this get any cooler? Stop! Now I don't know about you guys, but I consider the Germans to be the best brewers in the world, bar none. So here's to another 1,000 years of keeping the monks proud of their legacy. In all seriousness though, German breweries have been struggling as of late, so let's make a pleasant effort of supporting them. They are on the pricier side, but they're totally worth it, so, you know, Prost! Since we already cracked a beer open, how about some white wine? You might think, oh, it's back to France then, but no, we're staying in Germany. Earliest records of vineyards at Staffelter Hof date to 862. In the Mosel region of Germany. That means it's been running for 1164 years. Likely operated by monks or local clergy producing wine for religious and local use. It's hard to say for sure, it's been a while. Over centuries the estate expanded and passed through various local families while thankfully maintaining its vineyards. The vineyard itself survived plagues, wars and economic upheavals, all the while preserving the tradition of winemaking. Today, Staffelter Hof is still family-owned, combining heritage vineyards with modern winemaking techniques. Naturally, Staffelter Hof focuses on quality Riesling and other wines strongly associated with the Mosel River Valley terroir. Their vineyards take advantage of steep slopes and slate soil, which produces highly aromatic, mineral-driven wines. If you plan on visiting, get ready to be walking through European history. The same cobblestones were stepped on by knights, monks and noblemen, all sharing the same passion for alcohol. As far as wineries go, this one is the OG. Now this is where my list of companies producing things that you can actually buy comes to an end. But there are two more companies left. They provide services, and they both originate in the same country. That's right, when it comes to keeping that light on, nothing touches Japan. Nishiyama Onsen Keiunkan was founded in 705 AD, making it the oldest hotel in the world according to the Guinness World Records. From the first day, it operated as ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn. The hotel provides accommodation in the best possible way, a traditional Japanese style with tatami rooms and futons. It's also famous for hot spring baths, onsen, fed by a natural volcanic hot spring. And of course it offers seasonal Japanese cuisine, kaiseki, featuring local ingredients. Operated by the same family for over 50 generations, Nishiyama Onsen Keiunkan continuously updated facilities while preserving traditional architecture and hospitality techniques. So if you're planning a trip to the land of the rising sun, I hope you have enough time to book a room in this one. I know where I'll be staying during my Japan trip. I also know I'll be living completely broke. So like I said, the other company is also Japanese, and it belongs to the oldest of trades. Despite your filthy ideas, I'm talking about construction. And this one is the oldest running company on planet Earth. So 1300 years is old, right? Our last one is almost 200 years older. Operated independently for 1400 years by a family dynasty where every CEO was a direct descendant of the founder Shigemitsu Kongō, a skilled carpenter from Bakeji, Korea, Kongō Gumi specialized in elaborate temple joinery without nails, using only wooden joints and traditional techniques. Their first major project was the Sitino-ji in Osaka, which still exists and is a major historical site. Since then, they specialized in temple and shrine construction, particularly wooden architecture. The business kept going through civil wars, fires, earthquakes, and economic crises, which is incredible for any company. which is why it's rightfully often cited as a symbol of Japanese dedication, craftsmanship, and family business longevity. From 7th to 19th century, Kongō Gumi built countless Buddhist temples and shrines across Japan, and only in the 20th they expanded to commercial construction, adapting to modern building methods. Unfortunately, Kongō Gumi was not immune to financial difficulties that arose due to Japan's economic downturns and changing construction industry dynamics, and as a result of that it was acquired as a subsidiary by Takamatsu Construction Group. Although no longer fully independent, it still continues to operate as a brand within its parent company, preserving its historic legacy. So, while bittersweet, this story still has a happy ending. So, these are the oldest and coolest brands in existence. I'm sure I missed a few more, which I'll be more than happy to learn about from you, dear viewers. Who knows, maybe a second part of this lengthy video would be in order as a result. Either way, making this list was a pleasure, because I've discovered a few things myself. One cannot help but notice a certain pattern here. Oldest companies come from Japan and Europe. Japanese oldest companies are mostly family-owned. There's quite a few super small businesses producing food and condiments as well as religious goods. There's also a Chinese workshop that's been making scissors for centuries, so it's not Japan and EU exclusively by any means. I also didn't include a number of government-owned businesses too, because a lot of those companies exist in a complete vacuum of steady cash flow. And speaking of family-owned, there's an international association of bicentenary family-owned companies. It's called Hennekings. I'll leave a link to their website in the description to the video. Their members are sometimes tri or even quad-centenary. The thing is, oldest documented lineage is very distinct from oldest continuously operating companies, so some of those businesses are a product of restructuring and acquisitions. Now, hopefully you find some new ways to spend your hard-earned or otherwise acquired funds. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like and subscribing. Thank you and goodbye.